So hello again. July the 2nd, and this is part 2 of the July overview. That amazing build-up for the next 3-4 weeks, actually exactly till the 23rd. The 23rd again in the year ending 23. You get the image. The 23 has a special charge. It adds up to a 5. It's extremely dynamic. And then if you take the 2-0 at the beginning, then you get a 7, and the 7 is that space in between the structural number 6 and 8, and the 7 is an irrational one. It can go any way. It has that opening, to the infinite. So the 7 is a very special number. The 7th month we are in right now. So it's quite an open canvas in a way. Nothing is for sure. Everything is in the move. Nothing is really in a steady place anymore. Everything is slightly off, at least slightly displaced, pushed to the edge or what not. And well, yesterday, and I'm now continuing of where I left in my earlier video, superior conjunction of Mercury, a very important moment. The foundation is laid for Mercury's manifestation as evening star, meaning at best it can be seen in the twilight, but that's still a few weeks away. This means that Mercury was exactly behind the Sun, and Mercury will have to travel away from the Sun to be seen from planet Earth's perspective. That takes a few weeks, but potentially it is born as evening star in that moment. And the evening star phase of both Venus and Mercury are very outward, social, inclusive of the world, versus the morning star periods are usually very subjective and building up of one's personal structure and perception systems, you could call. Venus and Mercury pretty much are that, mentally and emotionally, how we perceive, how we interact with reality, very personal frequencies. So the superior conjunction will give now the basic frequency for what Mercury will go through the next 2 months. And just want to point out a few things here. Vertex conjunct the Moon in Sagittarius, in conjunct to the Sun. This is the questioning. This is the critical observer, you could say. And Vertex is with the Moon. This is powerful. This means it's really going to want us to go to a more holistic perception, coming down from Venus and Mercury into the Moon, into the lunar sphere of being deeply connected with nature. The Moon always is the rhythms of nature. In that sense, it's our primordial self, you could say, our lower, I don't like the word lower, it's more our animalistic self, our the body in its all its ingeniousness, in its, I mean, the body in itself is a miracle, and it is that miracle allowing that miracle to uninterruptedly just do its thing. That's kind of when you are at the lunar level. So it is an invitation to trust that deeper instinct of who you are, what you are here for and what not, and don't think too hard about it. Be in your heart, in your guts, much more than in your head. So then when we look at this moment heliocentrically, that's always interesting, because this shows the energy behind the curtain. It's the quantum particles carrying this frequency. Each photon has a quantum package of information, and that is what the sun is perceiving, what the energies the sun is manifesting in this moment, because it's all that sacred geometry again, which makes an imprint, which then is carried forth and nourishes us. So Mercury exactly here, front and center, 10th house cusp. Yes, Neptune is definitely in charge, very much so. As yes, go back to my earlier recording where I gave you a little more of that, what Neptune really means in these nth degrees of Pisces. Darkening of the light, it goes really deep into the abyss. That's where we have to integrate so many things to come full circle, and literally that is a coming full circle with Neptune then entering Aries in 2025-26 around. This is really the big rebirth point finally. Yes, it already will get better around 28-15, as I said, which is the break up point into the new frequency 28-15, where we get into the cardinal cross really with the 4 hexagrams according to the teachings of the human design. That is where hexagram 25 starts here. Innocence, the rebirth of spring, the freshness, everything is an adventure, everything is full of wonder and going courageously into the unknown. You could say that's that energy. Anyway, that is yet to come. We are finishing here, as I said, at least for the next couple of years. It will be a forth and back. First time in April 2024 we move on here with that Neptunian energy into this innocence, this new beginning energy, and it will be just a little bit of an adjustment there for a few years, as everything always is. Forth and back, it is just the nature's rhythms, waves, waves coming in, waves going out. Everything is rhythm in that sense, and that's really what the best definition of time is. It's rhythm, it's the beat. And it's always in the now, like music. Music is always in the now. That's the wonderful thing about music. And it's never about who arrives first at the end of the song. Just think about that. Anyway, so this is the beginning here of a really important 2-month cycle into beginning of August, really. Beginning of September. It is those 2 months, July and August, which this is showing here. And now, just wanted to go back a few steps here quickly. That was on the 11th of June, Pluto re-entered Capricorn. And look, I just really wanted to show you this, just to make my case how important Neptune is right now. So this chart here of the 11th is valid into January 2024. That's how long that last. No, it's not the last. The second last dip into Capricorn will be. And yes, Moon, Neptune again. Moon, Neptune. Again, this can mean many things, as everything does in astrology. On the lower end of the spectrum, this is pure confusion and not knowing, being lost in the mist, in the fog, and the kind of being overwhelmed. And on the positive side, it is an extremely well-defined reception perception system, very attuned, very sensitive, knowing exactly what's going on, because you have that access to a perception which is not really physical. It's just a knowing at best. So anyway, this Neptune energy is coming in over and over again, as we will see. So let me just jump now to, this is yes, when Neptune then turned retrograde on the 30th of June. And yes, again, to point out, that was just short before Mercury and the Sun had their superior conjunction, just approaching this high point, applying that sense, still building up towards the full potential. And as I said, let me just throw this quickly in, as I said, also on that day, I don't think I have a heliocentric chart here, but that's okay. Yes, here it is. This is the one I want to go back to once more. This is the heliocentric of July 1st. I want to show you one more thing. I just want to mention that once more. This is the waxing square Jupiter has with Pluto, which was exact on July the 1st as well. Really that enormous energy which is available for evolution, for growth, for expansion in the last degree of Aries. Jupiter is here till I guess the 13th or so, for the next 10-12 days, still in this final Jupiter Mars, which I'm always having the image of yes, we are climbing ever higher and conquering new territory in a way. It has that sense of cavalry, of here we come, and then Jupiter dives into Taurus and then starts acting on a whole new level of speeding up growth from deep within. That initial part of taking possession of new land is comes complete, and then that land is starting to be cultivated and used, and things are starting to sprout out of it. That's already happening, as from geocentric point of view, Jupiter is already in Taurus since quite a while. But heliocentrically, which means the base energy of it is then also in that same way of expressing itself, which definitely will then double the effect. So this is okay, let me now go ahead. So okay, on the 6th of July, Sun lines up with Sirius. This is every year a major moment. Sirius is super important. Also the 9 and Magenta Pixie have been speaking about how Sirius is so directly linked with Earth. And if you can do your own research on that, it is the Sirius has a very special meaning. And only hours later, Earth is at its aphelion. That is, Earth is farthest away from the Sun. And again, those of you who are new to this, Earth moves on a slightly elliptical orbit, as pretty much, or not pretty much all celestial bodies are. There's no circular orbit. It's always a little bit off. That is the beauty in nature. Perfection is an imperfection. Anyway, so there's that spot where the Earth is farthest away from the Sun, which is around July the 4th, 5th or 6th. Every year it changes. It's a complex motion. Actually, the Moon is involved in that too, by the way. So this is what astronomers are calculating. They're giving us these times. This is the time. And this year, this is within hours of conjuncting Sirius. Super important, very special that is. And on top of it, that moment when on the 0 meridian in Greenwich, Earth is exactly at the aphelion farthest away from Earth. This is exactly at sunset. How about that? So Sirius and the Sun here at the sunset point in this global chart. This in itself is showing there's a huge influence of higher frequency, and really Sirius is where most likely the last big receding happened on this planet came from the planet Sirius. There's many connections. I mean, in Africa particularly, there's a tribe who knew many things about that star Sirius. They knew it was a double star, even though only decades later astronomers finally had the resolution in their telescopes to see that actually this bright spot in the sky, Sirius, is two, one much fainter one than the other, Sirius A and Sirius B. And then also the dimensions of Sirius A and Sirius B are very close to what Sun and Earth and Sun and Earth are in the relationship. It's quite spectacular, the resonance there. Anyway, this is an important moment, build up again on this month's energetic climbing from one rang up to the next. Vertex here with Venus. Yes, it is all about Venus. Venus is the one which is in its final days here of this 584-day cycle it has with Sun and Earth together, turning retrograde on the 23rd of July, just 17 days away now. If we now go to the next chart, on the 10th of July, Venus enters Venus is conjunct the galactic center, heliocentrically. That is here. And again, it's right on the ascendant in Greenwich. What can you say? There's something special going on here. Whenever the galactic center is involved, this is a amplification bigger than anything can be. This is the central Sun's energy, that higher galactic and spiritual guidance from a far greater plateau, a dimension way above us, comes in here. whenever the galactic center is activated. So with Venus here, and this happening exactly at sunrise in Greenwich, with Jupiter here, right at the source point, this is tremendously auspicious. It really shows us that Venus is very confident and dares to step in her power. And what is the power of Venus? It's love. It's the appreciation, the gratefulness, the loving presence, as Jacqueline Hobbs puts it. This is what is surrounding us, the loving presence. This is everywhere in space. This is the quality of space, the quality of the quantum vacuum. Yes, you can give it names. You can call it God, you can call it Buddha or whatnot, Jesus Christ. It doesn't matter. These are just representations of that loving presence. And if we are, and I just want to remind you again, this is Jacqueline's suggestion to consciously focus on absorbing that loving presence into your body, to ground it, to give it a body, to literally become a vessel for that energy. And that is exactly what Venus shows here. This is a successful operation underway. We are doing this, we are charging this planet up with so much love energy that we're literally pushing the bar so high that the dark forces cannot sustain remaining here. It's getting too hot for them, you could say. They just, it's literally, that's what is predicted to happen. It is getting, the climate in that sense, the frequency climate is getting so intense that they cannot stay. They have to evaporate and go, and naturally before they do that they're boiling, they're expanding like balloons before they pop. That's exactly what's happening. So anyway, let's keep building here on this tree. Where are we going next? A few hours later, you see that was 6:44 p.m. Venus at the galactic center. On that same day, then 10:38 p.m. Jupiter, heliocentric, enters Taurus. Yes, on the 10th of July. Now we know. This is big. And again, I mean, how can that happen? This is not accidental. Neptune again at the ascendant. The design is so perfect. I mean, this is giving me personally one of the greatest, what you call that? It's now I can't even think of the right word to use. It's just it shows its beauty. I can appreciate those repetitions of the same number. It's like that's me. I mean, I'm always watching license plates when I'm on the road. So very often there's 7777 on the license plate. How often is that even possible? That's what you're asking yourself, and that shows the specialness of these present times we're in. We are literally at the gold star moment, at that critical last little dot on the eye, which will change anything and everything. It's really literally visible from these repetitions you see with Venus at the top of the chart. I mean, it's uncanny. That is the same moment when heliocentric Jupiter will enter Taurus as seen from Earth. By this time you see geocentrically Jupiter at 10:55 in Taurus. However, look where the moon is and where the north node is. So there's a resonance here between heliocentric position of Jupiter and the moon and the north node. The moon and the north node, this is one of the most powerful combinations you can have in a chart, because the north node is the direction we are evolving into, personally and collectively both. Whichever sign it is in, that's where we are meant to manifest, express ourselves through. The moon in the last degree of Aries, now this point in general is charged up quite a bit. This is where the eclipse happened in April 2950 or so. So anything in the last degree of Aries always resonates with that eclipse energy. And yes, the moon north node, this is a powerful wave of evolution, of again coming from the belly, from that connection with nature, knowing that we are just an extension of nature. We are just playing these characters because we are here for this reason. Very simple. So you do what you have to do. Yes, there's lots of enjoyment in it too, and we will get to that. Actually, I just discovered something, but I will save that for my next video. So you see, this is when Jupiter enters Taurus, and again this time Neptune here conjunct the equatorial ascendant, the east point, also called Neptune. And okay, let's move on. Well, one more thing I want to point out. Mars and Pallas here entered Virgo just, I guess, a day prior or so. And Mars pretty much exactly conjunct Pallas. Mars is faster than Pallas, so this will be just within the next hour or two. This is again that dedication now in Virgo for truth, for playing by the rules, justice, but it's very methodical. Interesting that Mars and Vesta I have seen in one of the most powerful solar flares on record. There was a conjunction of Mars and Pallas in the first degree of Virgo. Might be something of that also happening at that same moment, just to power up that Jupiter in Taurus. I would not be surprised. I mean, we're still under the Jupiter-Pluto influence. This is then, yes, now we're jumping 10 days ahead. I know there's still plenty things happening in between, but this is now getting into the finale here, into the last 3 days of Venus before turning retrograde, coming to its climax. And once more, yes, I have it here. That is the interesting resonance, which just I discovered today while doing more research. See, that was in 2022, June 6, the 6th month of a 6 year that was. Now we are in the 7th month of 7 year there, and then it was Jupiter and Neptune having their heliocentric conjunction, which started, as I said, that new cycle, that cycle we are into probably 2020-35 around, of opening the door to the future. That's what Jupiter and Neptune stand for as a couple, as two energies together. It is the opening the curtain and creating all that momentum to have great visions, great dreams, wonderful ideas, over the top, expansive, big. And yes, it started in the darkening of the light, but this was just the beginning. So this energy is activated through this heliocentric CRS ingress. Yes, that's how it works. It resonates. Very simple. And here it is again, CRS, 0 degrees in Scorpio. And again, CRS, the one which is that motherly love, but again, a mother can be very hard and harsh at times, if necessary, for the well-being of their children. That is what we will experience with Ceres in Scorpio, and this will be probably for a number of months. Taking us by our hand. Okay, now here we go. We go now into the hidden corners of reality. That's kind of what it feels, particularly with Jupiter opposition. And then Pluto square. I mean, yeah, this is powerful stuff. Not even speaking of Haumea and Elatus. Haumea, which is all about rebirth, transformation, rejuvenation, and that birthing process of something totally new, out of fire. Elatus, the one who's really good at improvising, at pulling things out of its sleeves. Let me just give you a few more keywords for Elatus. I think I have them here still. It, maybe not. Here they are. Recalibration, new strategy, at crossroads, change of direction, the ability to improvise. Elatus is quite an elaborate force. So this same moment, July the 20th, in geocentric view, and how about that? The moon exactly conjunct the mean lunar apogee. That's what the black moon is. Where the moon is farthest away from Earth. I like to call it black moon just not to create confusion. There's, yes, many people call it black moon Lilith. That's totally fine. However, there is an asteroid with the name of Lilith. And then there's yet another body, which is a kind of a hypothetical body in astrology. There are those two, and that is also named Lilith. That's why I stick with the black moon. It is where the moon is farthest away from Earth, and this is actually the central axis. This point where the moon is farthest constantly sways in space, and that is the center axis around which it sways. Anyway, the long and short, the moon conjunct the black moon. This is dead on center through polarity, understanding that everything is consisting of dark and light. There is this integration happening. The brightest light is found at the core of darkness, as the saying goes. It's really also like the yin and yang sign. You have the black dot within the white part of the symbol. So this is pretty cool. That is the moment Ceres enters Scorpio. This gives you a sign. Yes, it's going to get interesting. And again, this is a multi-month affair. Okay, then the 22nd. Now here we go. Sun Pluto opposition. With Neptune at the top of the chart in the 0 meridian. I'm just leaving it at this for now. I guess you see there's something, and then the lunar nodal axis is exactly squaring the Sun-Pluto opposition. So this is a grand square. Grand square is super powerful. This, I guess, pretty much every astrologer would agree, this is the most powerful structure in any chart. If you have a grand square, this is action pure. This is also putting something really solid in place. This is a structure what you can build on. Whatever is squaring the lunar nodes is at its peak dynamism. It's that waxing square again. Whichever direction you're looking at it from, or waning square, doesn't matter. The square is and will be the most dynamic point, either actional or from the understandings level seen, so to say. There's always first there has to be something happening, and then finally we put A and B together, which is what basically comes out of when things collide in that first waxing square. Usually in the waning square the resolution is reached. So this is big in itself, with Neptune square there on top of the chart. Then look, this is now Venus turning retrograde, and that's just less than a day later. The moon has traveled from 17 to 27, and I mean, you can't make that stuff up. Again, this time Mercury black moon conjunct here at the 4th house, Caspater, source point, opposite Hygeia, health, well-being, serendipity. So all of that is the guiding light. Health, yes, we want health. We want actually the how shall I say, the redemption has to happen with what has been done in the name of health. Quite something they're still waiting for us to be caught up with. Maybe that is starting to really unravel. How long can you keep it under the carpet? And yes, the moon opposing Neptune, squaring, T-squaring the ascendant descendant. This is the chart for the Venus retreat, which will last into, let me say it once more, yes, Venus will be in retreat till September. Yes, that's right, September the 4th. That's roughly 6 to 7 weeks. And Venus will apparently move backwards from 29 degrees where it is here at its peak, back into the 13th degree, 12 and something, by September the 4th. So it is this whole period of retrieving its path, of looking deeper into what it has experienced, so to say. It is a digestive period, catching up what has been missed period, and that's always what retrogrades are there for. We have to go through all the files on our table. Yes, not so much in naturally paperwork this time, but really emotional stuff, emotional garbage, and yeah, can be garbage, or at least heavy stuff we have to come to terms with. And yes, let's just read the Sabian symbol there for that degree where Venus turns retrograde. That is 29 Leo. 29th degree of Leo. The 29th degree, by the way, starts at 2801 and goes till 2859. That is the 29th degree of Leo. Anyway, I guess you know that. Sorry if I teach you things you already know. Anyway, so this is a mermaid emerges from the ocean waves, ready for rebirth in human form. Keynote: the stage at which an intense feeling intuition rising from the unconscious is about to take form as a conscious thought. I like that. Something's dawning into consciousness. The mermaid personifies a stage of awareness still partially enveloped by the ever-moving and ever-elusive ocean of the collective unconscious, yet already half formulated by the conscious mind. Yeah, it's an in-between stage. Perfectly describes what we are at here historically. And he further says here, it is this great evolutionary urge, this élan vital, which is implied in this symbol of the mermaid seeking human incarnation, the yearning for conscious form and solidity. And in Venus' case here, this means to become these still kind of unexpressed emotions and feelings to come into full form and being recognized for what they are, and therefore also being processed and built upon, used as fuel to move on to the next level, because that's what will be required. We have finally to integrate it all and understand that polarity is a tool existence pushes us to evolve through. As simple as that, but that is still to come. This is a process and this will take its time. Okay, you see, it hasn't ended yet, because this is then the next moment. This is, you see, 1:32 in the morning when Venus turns retrograde, and then just 3 hours later the lunar nodes are exactly square Pluto. Here is the lunar nodal axis and Pluto here. Yes, that is the most powerful push towards evolution happens in that moment. And as the story is, this is the waning square if we look at it from the lunar north node's perspective, which is the faster of the two. The nodes move faster than Pluto, so this is the one which will be giving. Yeah, no, sorry, I just said it wrongly. The slower one is the anchor point, naturally. Yes, absolutely. Makes more sense. The slower one is the anchor point. So if we look at the north node being the leading node, then this is the waning square. You see, this is 3/4 of the circle. The lunar node goes backwards. We'll move through these three signs in the next, whatever, 3 to 4 years to then reunite with Pluto again. So this is the waning square, the square of resolution, which makes total sense. The impact already has happened, and we are now coming to the place where we are coming to resolve this case once and for all. With the moon 29 degrees here in Virgo. Very nice. And again, you see opposing Pluto. this is a void of course moon, by the way, and the sun is already here in the first degree of Leo. Take note of that. So we have now already that combustion energy of the sun. Let me just make sure that is the right word I'm using here. I like to learn that. Yeah, he calls it combustion, the first 15 degrees of Leo. Again, this is Rudyard. On that note, the first 15 degrees of Cancer, which we are still in, are the 15 degrees of decision. This is the time where a decision has to be made. And then between 15 and 30 degrees, Cancer is the consolidation, where things become really set and anchored well for then the combustion to being released from this powerful and well anchored energy. We are going into the release mode. That is definitely interesting that this happens here exactly the moment when Pluto is squaring the nodal axis. Excuse me. And again, this is setting the stage pretty much for the next 4 years. As I say, the waning quarter, the waning square. But you see, this is not even the last leg here of this complex build-up of frequency and of intensity over these few days. The final one is this one. Chiron turning retrograde on the 23rd, also on the 23rd at 12:40 p.m. That's another 8 hours later. This time the moon is already in Libra. And what stands out most? I calculated it exactly 50, but let me say it correctly. Okay, let's go back to my notes because I don't want to miss on that. This is pretty interesting. That is 1 minute and 33 seconds later. Mercury is exactly conjunct the black moon, the mean lunar apogee. Dead and center, into the shadow we go. And I mean, you can't make that stuff up. Again, the 29th, 30th degree of Aries and Libra. Exactly the degrees of the nodes. Most exactly the north node at the 7th house cusp. Yes, this is about becoming a collective. 7th house, where we meet each other, where we are fusing with one another, with Jupiter and Uranus here in the 7th house, and this is still to come. This is really the I guess the great alignment of the year 2024 will be the 3 times Jupiter will conjunct with Uranus. Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is always enthusiastic. Something new, something to die for, something really exhilarating, great, wonderful, miraculous. So yet another sign that the year 2024 really will be the first year where things are showing themselves in a much, much better light. This is the tail end, that real forging of still that resistance which we are and which we have been discovering ourselves, that we are actually that. Yeah, and it is that intensity of fire and of being hammered which hardens the blade. And yes, the first it's an organic growth to that place where that blade then has been completed, where the blacksmith is happy with the result and gives it to the warrior and says, here you go, now is your time come. And the earliest this will be is January 2024. This is, as I said multiple times, now the projected maximum point of this solar cycle 25. Very interesting, I find. And well, the real final singularity point I'm not expecting till February 2026. That is really when all those many planets simultaneously change signs and there is this real big renewal energy around. That's just my personal take on it. I'm happy if it happens earlier, but it is already happening. We are already in New Earth, as the Nine says. I played that little excerpt in my last video. Please listen to that if you haven't done so yet. This builds kind of the foundation of where we're going here. Okay, I guess you see this is pretty exquisite astrology. What we are seeing here, the universe is so amazing. How, and this has been dreamt into existence. That's really how you'd have to see it. We are setting. The Nine once said in one of Magenta's channelings, transmissions, that it was the moment when it failed last time, which was when Atlantis drowned, when all those light workers, those magicians and wizards and warlocks realized it was the end. And that moment, that's what the Nine said, they planted a seed in the future. They dreamt a situation into reality. They created a seed point which then would pull all timelines towards it and generate a web, a labyrinth of frequencies which would build towards that singularity point. And that's how it's really working. That's how envisioning something works. You create the vision so strong that things fall in place around you. And the more you're getting into your power and using your power wisely, the more you are able to experience that yourself. And it is a happening. It is not that you're willfully going there. It is just something which comes to you. You're saying yes to it. You're accepting it because you're in tune. And one more thing I want to mention here is again the resonance with this chart, Helio, Jupiter, Neptune. You see 937 is here at the root of this chart, and that is pretty much the degree here at the head of this chart. And last but not least, I haven't done so yet, but I'm now very curious what that 10th degree of Leo is saying here again in the Sabian symbols. Early morning dew sparkles as sunlight floods the field. Yes, very beautiful. And by the way, and this tunes into that is Salacia here in sextile and a trine here to this consciousness axis. Salacia is that shimmer, it's that reflection of sunlight on the water, that interaction of water and fire, water and light, of the two elements. And Jacqueline Hobbs has spoken a lot about brightness, and that this is really the manifestation of the unseen world is coming in through that shimmer, those millions of light dancing on the lake, on the ocean, and there is a sextile here. So yes, there is this enjoyment, this deep enjoyment is in this process too, and this is really what is carrying us through if we are able to connect with that layer, which is beyond duality. Really, it really doesn't matter anymore. Even if you have pain, if you're going through a difficult and even life-threatening situation, if you're in touch with that source within yourself, that open, calm brightness, then everything fades out. Then you are really at the at the place of enjoyment of it all, regardless, because you're knowing you're not it. There is something else, formless, the one who is watching, the witness, who is always behind or above, or you get the picture. Anyway, so let me just give you the whole meaning here. The early morning dew sparkles as sunlight floods the field. Now this is Chiron's retrogression. So this is really a critical moment in the healing process which is initiated here, which will last for the next 5 months roughly. Chiron here at 1957, from here on going backwards again, yes. 20th degree of Aries, which is still in the Scorpionic Dwad, so yes, it goes still to a very deep place before the full breakthrough will be possible, probably when Chiron then will hit into the Sagittarian Dwad, crossing the 20 degree mark, which will be sometime next year. So this is, as I say, a critical moment of introspection, starting of understanding that, yes, I guess that's really the key message of Chiron in Aries as such is, I am responsible for what I see. And by deeply contemplating on that I am the creator of my life, of all the circumstances, again, as I said before about the wizards and warlocks of Atlantis planting that seed, that's how we do it too, individually, in each and everyone's lives. Our consciousness is asking for these particular experiences in order to season, to grow, to expand, to become more of who we are meant to become. And this future is pulling us into that complete and enlightened consciousness we are meant to be in the end, and we will all go there. That is the wonderful thing about the singularity. Everyone who remains on this planet, who is able to sustain and keep in their body, will be able to experience this quantum leap, which this really means, that singularity point where we become all one. Yes, we don't lose our individuality, but we will be interconnected in one cosmic mind. We will have access to each point and every coordinate within it. Quite overwhelming to even think of it, but that's where we're heading. That was predicted already in 2011. That is the first time I became aware of it, when Bill Wood, in his interview with with the lady from Avalon, I forget her name, Carrie Cassidy, right, where he speaks about the project Looking Glass, and that these military scientists who had extraterrestrial knowledge and working with this technology project Looking Glass, which allowed them to look into the future. I guess you could call it very, very highly evolved computer programs who were able to extrapolate the direction evolution would move on. Anyway, the story is that regardless of what variables were changed within the program, it always produced the same outcome. That's what Bill Wood was speaking about, that singularity we are approaching. At the time it was called the 2012 paradox. I will actually think of it and put the link to that video. It's quite an amazing revelation we received back then already. So that's where we're going, and I guess I should cut it here, not to get it way too long. It's already long enough, and I guess that's more than you well, it's probably just enough for you to still be happy with and not feeling you have what's the word here, indulged, eaten too much. Anyway, love you all. Thank you for joining in and listening. Thank you.